When Michael left his wife for a woman half her age, he thought he'd found a second chance at happiness. But 7 days after their wedding, he discovered a lie so devastating it ended in blood. This is the story of a romance that started with hope, flourished with lies, and ended in a tragedy that shocked a small Ohio town to its core. A story where love and deception collided with such force that it left investigators asking one haunting question: when does betrayal justify rage? Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And if you're new here, click on the subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Michael Reynolds was 48 years old when his 23-year marriage ended. He wasn't a complicated man. He fixed cars for a living at a small auto shop in Columbus, Ohio, went bowling on Thursdays, and had the kind of quiet, predictable life that most people would call stable. His ex-wife, Patricia, had been his high school sweetheart. They'd raised 2 kids together, paid off a modest house, and lived the American dream in its most ordinary form. But somewhere along the way, the spark died. Patricia said he'd become distant. Michael said she'd stopped seeing him. The divorce was finalized in the spring, and by summer Michael was alone for the first time in decades. His friends noticed the change. He seemed lost, scrolling through his phone at lunch breaks, staring at nothing during conversations. He joined a Facebook group for people over 40 looking to reconnect with life after divorce. That's where he met her. Her name was Jessica, or at least that's what her profile said. She was 22 with blonde hair, bright eyes, and a smile that seemed to radiate through the screen. She posted about her love for old movies, road trips, and classic rock. Michael couldn't believe someone like her would message him first, but she did, and within days they were talking for hours every night. Their relationship moved fast, too fast, some would say later. Jessica told Michael she'd been hurt before, that older men understood her better, that she felt safe with him. She sent him photos of herself at coffee shops, at sunsets, holding up handwritten notes that said things like, "Thinking of you," and "You make me feel alive again." Michael was smitten. His co-workers noticed he was smiling again, humming to himself while he worked. He showed them her pictures. A few raised eyebrows. One friend, Derek, pulled him aside and said, "Man, are you sure about this? She's younger than your daughter." Michael brushed it off. He said people didn't understand. That age was just a number when 2 people truly connected. Patricia heard about it through their son. She didn't say much, but the hurt in her voice was unmistakable. She'd given him the best years of her life, and now he was chasing someone who could have been their child. But Michael didn't care. For the first time in years, he felt wanted. After 3 months of late-night calls and constant texting, Jessica agreed to meet him in person. She flew into Columbus from Arizona, or so she said. When Michael picked her up at the airport, he couldn't believe she was real. She looked exactly like her photos, young, vibrant, full of energy. They spent the weekend together, and by the end of it, Michael proposed. It wasn't planned. It just felt right. Jessica said yes, but there was something about Jessica's past that she refused to talk about, and for good reason. Because Jessica wasn't 22, she wasn't even close. They got married at a courthouse the following month. No big ceremony, no guests, just the 2 of them and a justice of the peace. Michael's kids didn't come. Patricia didn't call, but Michael didn't care. He'd found his second chance, and he was determined to make it work. They moved into a small rental house on the outskirts of town. For the first week, everything seemed perfect. Jessica cooked dinner, they watched movies on the couch, and Michael felt like a young man again. But then the cracks started to show, small things at first. Jessica was evasive about her family. She never talked about her childhood, her friends, or where she'd really come from. When Michael asked to meet her parents, she said they were estranged. When he asked about her job, she changed the subject. Then, 8 days after the wedding, Michael's co-worker showed him something that made his stomach drop. It was a Facebook post from 2012. A photo of a woman who looked exactly like Jessica, standing at a college graduation. The caption read, Class of 2012, finally done. Michael stared at the screen. If Jessica graduated college in 2012, she couldn't be 22 now. She'd be at least 33, maybe older. He confronted her that night. His voice shook as he held up his phone. "Tell me the truth, Jess. How old are you?" The silence that followed felt like an eternity. And then she broke. Her real name was Susan. She was 46 years old. She'd been using old photos, filters, and a fake identity to meet men online for years. She said she did it because she was lonely, because no one wanted to date a middle-aged woman, because she just wanted to feel young again. Michael felt the room spin. He'd left his wife, destroyed his family. All for a lie. The next few days were hell. Michael couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. He felt humiliated, betrayed, and trapped. His friends had been right. Patricia had been right. And now he was married to a stranger. Susan begged him to understand. She said she loved him, that the age didn't matter, that everything else between them had been real. But Michael couldn't look at her without feeling sick. He started drinking. He stopped going to work. Neighbors heard them fighting late at night, shouting matches that echoed through the thin walls of their rental. Glass broke, doors slammed, and then, one night, the shouting stopped. By the next morning, Susan was gone, and Michael was nowhere to be found. A neighbor called the police after noticing blood on the front porch. When officers entered the house, they found Susan's body in the bedroom. She'd been struck multiple times with a blunt object. The scene was chaotic, violent, a clear sign of rage. Michael's truck was found abandoned near a lake 30 miles away. His phone was off. His wallet was gone. A manhunt began. But police would soon uncover a secret that made this tragedy even more disturbing. Detectives started piecing together Susan's life, and what they found was staggering. Her real name was Susan Morales, and she had a history, a long one. She'd been married 3 times before, each time under a different name, each time using fake photos and fabricated stories to lure men into relationships. 2 of her ex-husbands had filed complaints, but nothing had ever stuck. She was careful, always moving to new states, always reinventing herself. Investigators found journals in the house. Pages and pages of Michael's handwriting filled with rage, confusion, and guilt. One entry, dated the night before Susan's death, read, "I don't know who I am anymore. I gave up everything for someone who doesn't even exist. I can't live like this. I just want it to stop." Police issued a public alert for Michael's whereabouts. Tips poured in. Someone claimed they saw him at a gas station in Kentucky. Another said he was spotted near the Canadian border. But 3 days after the murder, a fisherman found Michael's body in the woods near the lake. He'd taken his own life. The note he left behind was brief, but it changed everything investigators thought they knew. It read, "I didn't mean to hurt her. I just wanted her to tell me the truth. I wanted to know who I'd really married, but when she kept lying, something inside me broke. I'm not a killer. I'm just a man who lost everything. I'm sorry, Patricia. I'm sorry to my kids. I should have listened." The case was closed, but the questions remained. How do you measure guilt when both people are victims of their own choices? Investigators interviewed Patricia. She sat in her living room surrounded by photos of the life she and Michael had built, and said something that stayed with everyone in that room. He wasn't a monster. He was a man who couldn't see the truth until it was too late. And by then, it had already destroyed him. The media picked up the story. Talk shows debated it. Some called Michael a murderer who deserved no sympathy. Others called Susan a con artist who played a dangerous game. The truth, as it often is, was somewhere in between. Because Michael took his own life, there was no trial. But the legal system still had to make sense of what happened. The district attorney held a press conference and declared that had Michael survived, he would have been charged with second-degree murder. His actions, they said, were not premeditated, but they were inexcusable. Meanwhile, Susan's family came forward. Her sister gave an interview and revealed that Susan had struggled with mental health issues for years. that she'd been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, and that her pattern of deception stemmed from deep-seated trauma. She wasn't excusing what Susan did, but she wanted people to understand that her sister was broken too. Patricia attended a small private memorial for Michael. Just her, their 2 kids, and a few close friends. She didn't speak to the press. She didn't defend him or condemn him. She simply said, "I hope he's finally at peace." The community was divided. Some saw Michael as a cautionary tale about the dangers of online relationships. Others saw him as a man pushed past his breaking point by manipulation and lies. And some, quietly, admitted they understood why he snapped. Public opinion surveys showed that nearly 40% of people believed Susan bore some responsibility for her own death. Another 40% believed Michael was entirely at fault. The remaining 20% simply didn't know what to think. It was a case that forced people to confront uncomfortable truths about love, trust, and the lengths people will go to when they feel deceived. In the end, 2 lives were lost. One to deception, the other to rage. And everyone around them was left asking, when does love become obsession? When does betrayal justify violence? And how do we protect ourselves from people who hide behind carefully crafted lies? Michael Reynolds wasn't a bad man. He was lonely, vulnerable, and desperate for connection. Susan Morales wasn't a monster. She was damaged, scared of aging, and willing to do anything to feel wanted. But together, they created a perfect storm. Their story is a reminder that the people we trust most are sometimes the ones wearing the best disguise. It's a reminder that second chances can be beautiful, but they can also be deadly. And it's a reminder that in the age of social media, filters, and fake profiles, we must be more careful than ever about who we let into our lives. So we ask you, what do you think? Was this murder? Or was it a man pushed past his breaking point? How would you feel if someone you loved had lied to you about everything? Tell us in the comments below. We read every single one. And if this story shook you, don't miss our next episode where another love story ends with an unthinkable twist. Until then, stay safe, stay aware, and remember, not everything that glitters is gold.